The war room was silent, but fear filled every corner. Dozens of screens covered the curved walls, each showing a different part of the star system. Burning ships drifted without control. Defense stations blinked off one by one. Long-range sensors screamed warnings that no one wanted to hear. The coalition was losing. Admiral Korth stood at the center of the room, his hands behind his back. He had seen wars before. He had planned them, survived them, and even won them. But this war was different. This war was breaking them. Enemy fleets pushed deeper every hour. Their numbers were endless. Their weapons were ruthless. The coalition's strongest ships were already gone, reduced to glowing wrecks in the cold dark of space. An officer stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Admiral, we have lost the outer defense ring." No one reacted. They already knew what that meant. Another officer spoke, quieter this time. "Civilian evacuation routes are failing." Admiral Korth closed his eyes for a moment. Billions of lives depended on what he would say next. He turned slowly toward a sealed console at the far end of the room. It was older than the others, darker, untouched. Everyone in the room knew what it was. The emergency alert. No one spoke its name out loud. A general broke the silence. "We cannot use that system." Another voice joined in, full of fear. "It was never meant to be activated." Korth said nothing. He stared at the console as if it were a living thing. That device was not a weapon. It was worse. It was a call. Long ago, when the coalition was young and hopeful, they had met humanity. Humans were strange. They were polite, calm, and careful with their words. They spoke of peace often, but never weakness. Their technology was far ahead, but they did not show it freely. When asked why they did not join the coalition fully, the humans gave a simple answer. "We do not fight wars unless they threaten everything." The coalition did not understand what that meant. They would understand now. The emergency alert was built with human help. It was designed to be impossible to activate by mistake. It required agreement from every senior commander present. It was a message that could never be taken back. Another explosion appeared on the screens. A coalition cruiser split in half, silent and helpless. Korth opened his eyes. "How long until the core worlds fall?" he asked. The answer came fast, too fast. 6 hours, Admiral, maybe less." The room went still. 6 hours was not time. It was a death sentence. Korth walked toward the console. Each step felt heavier than the last. Behind him, voices rose in panic. "If we call them, we lose control. What if they decide we are the problem? What if they do not answer at all?" Korth stopped in front of the console. "What if we do nothing?" he asked. No one replied. He placed his hand on the activation surface. The system came alive, glowing with a dull red light. A warning appeared. "Emergency alert, last resort. Activation may result in unpredictable outcome." Korth swallowed. This alert did not ask for help. It warned humanity that a war had crossed a line. A junior officer whispered, almost to herself, "They promised they would come, only once." Korth looked around the room. He saw fear, guilt, and shame. Leaders who had waited too long. A galaxy that believed it could handle everything alone. He pressed the activation command. The console asked for confirmation from every senior officer. One by one, shaking hands touched their screens. The final confirmation locked in. The alert was sent. Nothing happened. No sound, no signal, no response. Minutes passed. Enemy fleets continued their advance. More ships were lost. More lives vanished from the screens. A sensor officer suddenly leaned forward. "Admiral, I am detecting something." "Enemy?" someone asked. "No, it is not like any enemy signature." The room rushed to her station. The sensor display showed empty space at the edge of the system. Then a single point of light appeared. Just one. "That is impossible," another officer said. "There is no jump gate there." The light grew larger. Power readings spiked across every scale. The system struggled to understand what it was seeing. The object was massive, larger than a city, larger than some moons, and it was alone. No fleet followed it, no escorts, no formation, just one ship. As it moved closer, every weapon system in the room went silent. Not shut down, not destroyed, simply silent. A low signal spread across all frequencies, calm, clean, human. "This is the human warship Aegis," the message said. "We have received the alert." No threat followed, no questions, just one final sentence. "Observe and stand by." The room was frozen in shock. Admiral Korth felt a chill move through his body. They had answered, and the war was about to change forever. The war room did not breathe. Every officer stood still, eyes locked on the image of the human warship drifting closer through the dark. It did not rush. It did not hide. It moved with a calm that felt unnatural in a battlefield filled with fire and death. The ship was enormous. Its surface was smooth, dark, and unreadable. No glowing engines, no visible weapons, no heat signature that made sense. Sensors failed again and again when trying to scan it. The computer kept returning the same answer: unknown. Admiral Korth stared at the display. "One ship," he said slowly. "They sent one ship." A tactical officer swallowed. "That is not a ship, sir. That is a statement." Across the system, enemy fleets noticed it too. Intercepted enemy chatter flooded coalition channels. Confusion, anger, fear. No one knew what the human vessel was or what it could do. An enemy commander's voice broke through, sharp and mocking. "A single vessel? Humanity finally shows fear." Several enemy cruisers turned toward the human warship, their weapons charged. Bright lines of energy filled space. The coalition officers watched in horror. "They are going to fire," someone whispered. Admiral Korth opened his mouth to speak, but the human ship moved first. Not fast, not aggressive. It simply shifted position. Enemy targeting systems failed instantly. Weapons discharged anyway. Beams and missiles crossed the void, screaming toward the human vessel. They never arrived. The attacks bent, curved, faded away as if space itself refused to carry them further. No explosion, no impact, just silence. The enemy fleet hesitated. For the first time in the war, they hesitated. The human warship did not answer with fire. It did not chase. It did nothing at all. It waited. A new message spread across all channels. It was the same human voice. "This conflict has exceeded acceptable limits." Every language translator struggled, then settled. "This system is now under human observation." The enemy commanders erupted in rage. "Observation?" one shouted. "You do not own this war." The human ship did not reply. Instead, something changed. Coalition officers noticed it first. Their damaged ships stopped losing power. Emergency systems restarted without input. Shields flickered back to life. "How is that possible?" an engineer asked. "They are stabilizing us," another replied in disbelief. "Remotely." The human warship was not repairing, it was controlling the battlefield. Enemy fleets tried to regroup. Orders flew back and forth, loud and desperate. Then the human spoke again. "Further escalation will result in intervention." Still no threat, still no anger. That frightened everyone. Admiral Korth felt his hands tremble behind his back. He had commanded fleets of thousands. He had ordered planets evacuated. He never felt so small. An enemy battleship suddenly surged forward, breaking formation. Its weapons glowed brighter than before. "They are testing them," a sensor officer said. "Full power." The battleship fired. This time, the human warship responded. Space around the enemy ship twisted, light bent inward. The battleship slowed, then stopped completely, frozen in the void. Every system on the ship shut down at once. No explosion, no damage, just silence. The human voice returned. Demonstration complete. The enemy fleet fell back. Coalition officers stared at the frozen battleship, drifting like a dead star. "They could have destroyed it," someone said. "Yes," Korth replied, "and they chose not to." That choice was the most terrifying part. A private channel opened from the human warship. Admiral Korth accepted it with shaking hands. The screen showed no face, only a symbol. "You sent the alert," the human voice said. "Yes," Korth answered. "We are losing." "We know," the voice replied. "Will you help us?" Korth asked. There was a pause. "We did not come to help," the human said. "We came to stop this war." Korth felt the weight of those words press down on him. "You will surrender control of battlefield decisions. All forces will follow human directives." "And if we refuse?" Korth asked quietly. Another pause. "Then we will still stop the war," the voice said. "You may simply not like how." The channel closed. Around the room, officers whispered in fear and awe. The human warship moved deeper into the system, placing itself between the two fleets like a wall made of darkness. Enemy ships retreated. Coalition ships followed human guidance without question. The war was still burning, but it was no longer theirs. Admiral Korth understood the truth at last. The emergency alert was not a request, it was permission, and humanity had accepted. The human warship remained at the center of the system, silent and unmoving. Yet everything now reacted to it. Every ship, every signal, every plan bent around its presence. Admiral Korth watched the battlefield update in real time. Enemy fleets no longer advanced freely. Their formations broke apart, forced into narrow paths they did not choose. Coalition ships moved with new precision. Damaged cruisers were guided out of combat. Fighters received exact timing windows, down to the second. Humanity was not fighting for them. Humanity was commanding the war itself. A coalition captain spoke through the command channel, disbelief in his voice. "Our targeting solutions are perfect. It is like the enemy cannot hide." Korth said nothing. He was watching the human warship. Small points of light appeared along its surface. Not weapons, not drones. Sensors struggled to track them. "Human deployment detected," an officer said carefully. "They are adjusting space." The enemy noticed too late. Without warning, entire enemy squadrons lost coordination. Ships drifted apart as if invisible hands were pulling them away from each other. Weapons misfired, engines failed, communication turned to noise. The enemy commanders shouted orders, but their voices meant nothing now. The human warship spoke again, broadcasting to all sides. "Hostilities will be reduced to controlled engagements." The phrase made no sense to anyone listening. Then the first human strike happened. No sound, no flash. One enemy destroyer simply vanished. Not exploded, not torn apart. Gone. Sensors showed nothing where it had been, not even debris. The battlefield froze. A second ship disappeared. Then a third. Each removal was clean and silent, like pieces taken off a board. The coalition ships did not fire. They did not need to. Enemy fleets panicked. Some tried to flee. Others charged in blind fear. It did not matter. The human warship did not chase. It selected. Targets vanished only when they crossed invisible limits. "This is not war," a coalition officer whispered. "This is correction." Admiral Korth felt his chest tighten. Humanity was not angry. They were precise. They were calm. That was worse. A desperate enemy commander opened a public channel, his voice shaking with rage and fear. "You do not belong here. This war does not concern you." The human reply came instantly. "All wars concern us when they threaten stability." The enemy launched everything they had left. Hundreds of weapons burned toward the human warship at once. For the first time, the warship moved. Space around it folded, energy bent away. Time itself seemed to slow near its hull. Every attack failed. Then humanity acted fully. A deep pulse spread across the system. Not an explosion, a command. Enemy ships powered down together. Entire fleets went dark, drifting helplessly. Coalition ships remained active. No one understood how. A coalition science officer stared at his screen. "They are rewriting engagement rules at a fundamental level." Korth closed his eyes. Humanity was not overpowering the enemy. They were removing their ability to fight. The warship spoke again, now only to the enemy. "You will stand down." Some did. Some refused. The human response was immediate and final. One enemy flagship attempted to self-destruct. Before it could, space closed around it. The ship folded inward and vanished. No light, no sound, just absence. Silence followed. Enemy channels filled with surrender codes. Across the system, weapons powered down. Fleets drifted in submission. The war had ended without celebration, without victory cries. Admiral Korth realized he was shaking. He opened a private channel to the human warship. "It is over," he said. "You have won." The reply came, calm as ever. "We did not come to win." "Then why come at all?" Korth asked. A pause. "Because you asked, and because you waited too long." The words cut deeper than any weapon. Coalition officers looked at one another in silence. They felt relief, shame, and fear all at once. The human warship turned slowly, scanning the broken battlefield. "Cease all movement," the voice said. "Phase 2 will begin." Korth's heart sank. "Phase 2, he asked. "For the war," the human replied. The channel closed. Around the system, new human signals appeared. Not ships, rules. The war was not over. It was being rewritten, and no one else had a say. The battlefield was silent, but no one felt safe. Enemy ships drifted powerless across the system like broken machines. Coalition fleets held position, afraid to move without permission. At the center of it all, the human warship remained still, watching. Phase 2 had begun. Admiral Korth stood alone in the war room now. Many officers had left their stations, overwhelmed by what they had seen. Others remained, staring at screens that no longer showed a war. They showed judgment. A private channel opened without warning. "This channel is secure," the human voice said. "You will listen." Korth straightened. "I am listening." "Your emergency alert was not a request for military aid," the voice continued. "It was a confirmation signal." "Confirmation of what?" Korth asked. "That your civilization had reached the limit of acceptable conflict." The words were calm, but heavy. Korth frowned. "We built the alert with you. You told us it was for emergencies." "It is," the human replied, "for emergencies that grow beyond control." A series of images appeared on Korth's screen. Old records, ancient wars, long-forgotten star systems reduced to dust. These were not your wars, the human said. They were others who failed to stop themselves. Korth watched planets burn in silence. Civilizations that believed war was a local problem, the voice continued. They believed it would end on its own. It did not. Korth felt cold. You are showing me mass extinction, he said. Yes. The human paused. We learned the cost of waiting. Korth realized then that this was not a threat. It was a confession. Long before we met you, the human said, we destroyed ourselves. Korth looked up sharply. You survived. Barely, the voice replied, and only because we changed. The images shifted, human cities rebuilt, fleets disarmed, laws written not for victory, but for restraint. We decided that no war should ever reach the point where it threatens everything, the human said, so we created a line. Korth swallowed, and we crossed it. Yes. The human warship adjusted position slightly. Even that small movement caused system-wide sensor alerts. When the alert activates, the voice said, it tells us 3 things. Korth waited. First, the human continued, that diplomacy has failed. Second, it said, that military balance no longer exists. And third, the voice finished, that the war will not end without external force. Korth felt shame rise in his chest. We did not intend this, he said quietly. Intent does not change outcome, the human replied. Silence filled the channel. Phase 2, Korth said at last. What does it mean? It means assessment, not of fleets, of minds. New data appeared on Korth's screen. Psychological profiles, command structures, political histories. You are judging us, Korth said. Yes. Will you punish us? He asked. Another pause. We are deciding whether you are capable of restraint. Outside the war room, coalition ships received new instructions, not commands, conditions. Weapons systems were limited, movement paths restricted, engagement zones locked. Any violation was corrected instantly. Officers felt it, a pressure in every decision. For the first time, they understood what it meant to be watched. An enemy delegate requested a channel. The humans allowed it. The enemy leader appeared, broken and furious. You have humiliated us. This war was ours. The human response was immediate. No, this war was everyone's. The enemy leader laughed bitterly. You think yourselves guardians of the galaxy? No, the human replied. We are its survivors. That word hung in the air. Survivors. The enemy delegate said nothing more. The channel closed. Admiral Korth leaned back slowly. He felt older than he ever had. You never planned to join our alliance, he said to the human. No, the voice agreed. Then why help us build the alert at all, Korth asked. Because you asked, and because one day we hoped you would use it, before it was too late. Korth looked at the frozen battlefield. We waited too long, he said. Yes, the human answered again. The human warship sent one final message across the system. Phase 2 will continue until stability is confirmed. And if we fail? Korth asked quietly. There was no pause this time. Then Phase 3 will begin. The channel closed. Outside, the human warship glowed faintly, like a silent judge against the stars. Admiral Korth understood the truth at last. The emergency alert was not a weapon, it was a test, and the galaxy did not yet know whether it had passed. Phase 3 did not begin with an attack. That was the first sign that something was very wrong. Across the system, the human warship remained still. No pulses, no warnings, no commands, just silence. Enemy fleets floated powerless, their crews trapped inside dark ships with no control and no hope of escape. Coalition forces waited under strict limits, afraid to test the invisible rules that now governed space. Admiral Korth felt the tension pressing down on every breath. Phase 3 meant judgment. A priority signal reached the war room. "Enemy leadership requests full system broadcast," an officer said. "They say it is urgent." Korth hesitated. Then he nodded. "Allow it." The image of the enemy high commander filled every screen in the system. He looked nothing like the proud leader who had once declared war. His uniform was torn. His eyes were tired and red. "This war is over," the commander said. His voice echoed across fleets and stations. "We acknowledge defeat." Murmurs spread through coalition channels. The enemy commander raised one shaking hand. "But we do not accept human authority," he continued. "This intervention violates all known laws of war." The human warship answered at once. "War law applies only to wars that remain contained." The enemy commander laughed bitterly. "You claim the right to decide that?" "Yes, because we already paid the price." The commander's expression hardened. "You threaten us with extinction," he said, "and call it peace." The human voice did not change. "No," it said, "we offer you survival." Silence followed. Then the enemy commander made his choice. "You fear us," he said. "That is why you came." At his signal, hidden systems across the enemy fleet activated. Coalition alarms exploded to life. "They have backup power," an officer shouted. "Unauthorized weapons are charging." The enemy commander smiled. "If we must fall," he said, "we will remind the galaxy why it feared us." The human warship moved. Not fast, not violent. Final. A single pulse spread outward, deeper than before. It did not disable systems, it erased them. Enemy ships began to vanish, one by one. No explosion, no warning. Entire vessels simply ceased to exist. Panic filled every channel. The enemy commander's image flickered. "You cannot erase us all." The human reply was immediate. "We do not need to." Half the enemy fleet was gone in seconds. The rest powered down instantly. The enemy commander fell silent, staring at empty space where his fleet had been. The human warship spoke one last time to the enemy. "Your choice has been recorded." The broadcast ended. Admiral Korth felt sick. He understood now. Phase 3 was not punishment, it was consequence. A private channel opened to Korth alone. "You are witnessing enforcement," the human said. "You warned them. They did not listen." "No," the human said. "They tested us." Outside the war room, coalition citizens watched the sky in silence. They felt relief, but also fear. Humanity had not destroyed a civilization. They had removed its ability to threaten others. "What happens now?" Korth asked. "Now," the human replied, "we decide who is allowed to fight wars at all." New orders spread across coalition systems. Military expansions frozen. Weapon development paused. Command councils reshaped. Not by force, by requirement. "If we refuse?" Korth asked. The human paused. "Then the alert will never need to be sent again," it said. Korth understood. Refusal meant removal. Across the system, surviving enemy ships transmitted unconditional surrender. No conditions, no demands. Humanity accepted without comment. The war was over, but no one celebrated. The human warship began to turn away from the battlefield. Before leaving, it sent one final system-wide message.
This conflict will be studied. Your decisions will be remembered. Future wars will be judged against this one. The ship's engines flared softly, bending space around it. Admiral Korth watched it prepare to leave. "Will you return?" he asked quietly. The human answer was calm. "Only if you ask again." The channel closed. As the human warship vanished into deep space, the stars felt different, closer, watching. Admiral Korth knew the truth. The galaxy was no longer free to destroy itself, and that knowledge would change everything.
The war was over, but peace did not feel the way anyone expected. Across the star system, ships slowly powered down. Wreckage drifted in silence. Rescue crews moved carefully, almost afraid that the quiet might break if they spoke too loudly. The human warship was gone, yet its presence remained. Admiral Korth stood at the main viewing window of the command station. Stars burned softly beyond the glass. They looked the same as before, but he knew they were not. Nothing was. Reports flowed in from every sector. Enemy survivors surrendered without resistance. Coalition worlds reported no celebrations, no parades, no victory cries. Only relief and fear. A junior officer approached Korth. "Civilian networks are asking the same question," she said. "They want to know, are the humans coming back?" Korth did not answer right away. He remembered the human voice, calm, certain, watching. "They never left," he said finally. Weeks passed. The galaxy adjusted. Military budgets were cut overnight. Old war doctrines were abandoned. Admirals who once spoke proudly of conquest now spoke carefully of limits and responsibility. New councils were formed, not to plan wars, but to prevent them. The emergency alert system was locked away. Its existence was known now, but no one wanted to be the one who touched it again. Historians struggled to name what had happened. It was not an invasion. It was not an alliance. It was not even a victory. It was a correction. Admiral Korth was summoned before the Grand Assembly. Leaders from hundreds of species watched him from towering screens. "You authorized the alert. Do you regret it?" Korth thought of burning worlds, of frozen fleets, of the human warship standing between annihilation and survival. "No," he said, "I regret waiting." The chamber fell silent. Another leader spoke, her voice unsteady. "What gives humanity the right?" Korth met her gaze. "Experience and restraint." Some argued that humanity had become a silent ruler of the galaxy. Others claimed they were guardians. Many feared they were something worse. But no one challenged them, because no one could forget what happened when the alert was answered. Years later, children learned about the war in schools, not as a story of heroes and villains, but as a warning. They learned that humanity did not win the war. They ended it. In human space, the event was recorded simply. No monuments were built, no medals were given. The warship Aegis returned to its hidden patrol routes. Its crew spoke little of what they had done. They had seen this before, elsewhere. On distant worlds, conflict still happened. Borders shifted, arguments turned violent, but wars no longer grew without limit. At the first sign of escalation, leaders remembered the silence before the human ship arrived. They remembered fleets vanishing without explosions. They remembered that humanity watched. One day, Admiral Korth stood alone beneath an open sky on his home world. The stars were clear, peaceful.
A soft signal appeared on his personal console. No alarm, no warning, just a simple message. Stability holding. Korth smiled sadly. Humanity did not rule the galaxy. They did not command it. They simply refused to let it destroy itself again. Far beyond known space, the Aegis drifted in darkness. Its systems monitored countless civilizations. Conflicts rose and fell like tides. The crew waited. They always waited. Because humanity had learned one truth long ago. The greatest strength was not the power to destroy. It was the will to stop. And as long as the emergency alert remained silent, the galaxy would endure. But if it ever sounded again, humanity would answer.